Hi guys, Ray here from City Fan TV, and I'm joined by my good friend Cam, and we will forgive him because he's a Liverpool fan. We will forgive him for his sins. How you doing, Cammy?
I'm good, thank you very much. Again, thank you for having me on again. I look
You what?
forward to a good conversation.
Yeah. Are you bored in the international break, just like me?
Uh, I think I said to you off backstage that I I'm sleeping much earlier, so the time flies by. I hate it. I don't even know who's playing international football. It's not for me.
Yeah.
Not for me.
No, I kind of know who's kind of playing most of the time, but it's boring. This is the first. I think this is the first video I've done since the international break started, apart from the ones talking about the defeat to Arsenal. Let's move on quickly from there. But we're here to obviously international break. We're just having a catch up as to where we are in the Premier League and all that. Looking at the big six as they're called, although some of them aren't really coming to the party at the moment. But we're just going to focus on that. And obviously, because Cammy is a Liverpool fan and I'm a City fan, we're going to focus on the champions. No, we're going to focus mostly on our own clubs. And I did threaten Cammy to wear a treble winner's top, but I knew he's such a biased tribal Liverpool fan. He wouldn't have turned up if I was wearing a treble top. So I've relented. I've relented. But it has, if you look at that open arms, that's a top that Pep would wear at press conference and stuff. I'm showing you a bit more of my kitchen than I normally would. But yeah, so we're here to chat about the big six and see where we are. But I'll start off. I'll give you the honour about talking about Liverpool first. And I thought Liverpool would challenge for the title. Or yeah, before the season started, I thought Liverpool would be up there. I thought United might be a bit higher than they are, but I thought Liverpool would be there because I just didn't see them falling off a cliff. Once you'd got rid of some of the deadwood, with all due respect, Keita, Fabinho, I mean, that was a steal that he went to society for that much money. Henderson, Milner. You got in some good players. And as soon as you got in McAllister, that was a steal for you. 35 million quid. You got Shobs, I can't even say his name. But I saw him a couple of years ago playing. He looked incredible. He's done really well for you. And you're just starting, your midfield starting to function so much better. Your attack is still pretty good. All right, you got problems with that cart horse of a Van Dijk in defence at the moment, who's not pulling up any trees. But you must be happy with what you've done so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of surprised me a little bit because the club was going for a defensive midfielder.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, Calcedo and a few other players that they've tried to go for, and it didn't come off, right? So I just thought maybe it's a bit late in the season, in the transfer window, sorry,
yeah.
to have adjusted our plans and, you know, gone for another formation or another style of play. But to Klopp's credit, he's one of the best coaches, managers in the world. I think with the inverted fullback, he's made it work, I guess.
Yeah.
You see Joe Gomez coming to midfield. I mean, he's not a Trent Alexander in terms of the offensive play, but it say it quietly. I think we've had a very good start considering the amount of away games we've had and who we've played away. We were very unfortunate against Spurs. Personally, I think if we had 10 people, not the 9, we would have probably ended up winning that game or at least not
Yeah.
losing it. And yeah, I think it's really, really positive. All the way through the team, I don't really see any weakness. In Allison, we've got a great goalkeeper. Um, Van Dijk I think he's been really good. Listen, he hasn't been pre-ACL Van
Yeah,
Dijk.
yeah.
He's been very good, Van Dijk, for me anyway. And Szoboszlai has been a revelation, very dynamic player. Um, McAllister, for me, he's a good player, most definitely, but I think he's been caught on the ball a few times with some sloppy passes. But I think it's because of the way Szoboszlai
Yeah.
started, I think there's a pressure on him to sort of be to that level, and I think he will get to that level. It's been a promising start, but not out of the two Szoboszlai. I think
Yeah.
he's been the better player. someone who's very unsung, I think, is Curtis Jones for us. He's a retainer of the ball, very much like Gini Wijnaldum, and he just keeps the ball ticking over. He sometimes gets caught on the ball because he takes an extra touch, but he's been very good. And we bought the lad from Bayern Munich, Gravenbach, right? So I think there's optimism there. And I think the title is definitely there for us to go for. My objectives for Liverpool in my own head was let's get top 4 and then build off next year. But I think with Kevin De Bruyne going out and a couple injuries you had, I think it's opened the door. Because for me, City are the absolute favourites, right? But Kevin De Bruyne is such an elite player. Like, I don't understand how he's not considered Ballon d'Or ahead of Haaland. Personally, like, the guy's amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing. Right? Rodri as well, amazing. So that's my take on Liverpool. I think there's still a lot to come from us. And our offence, we have the highest XG in the Premier League this season. So, like, I'm very optimistic. I think there's a challenge there to be made.
Yeah.
So that's my take on Liverpool.
Yeah.
What's yours?
No, I'll come. I've got a question about Liverpool. I'm just going to quickly go through the main points of the table. I should have done it earlier, but obviously Spurs are on top with 20 points, unbeaten so far. Arsenal are second with 20 points, unbeaten. City are third, 18, lost the last 2. Liverpool are fourth with 17. Villa are fifth with 16. Brighton is sixth with 16. West Ham is seventh with 14. Newcastle thought they'd be a little bit higher, but they've had some tough games. They're eighth with 13. Well, they're getting there. United are down in 10th with 12 points. Chelsea are in 11th with 11 points, but they've managed to win their last 2 games. They look like they might be able to go forwards and improve upon that. Question I've got about Liverpool, I mean, is if Liverpool had a poor start this season, how much pressure would have been on Klopp? Do you think, if they'd been mid-table at Christmas, that he'd have been looking at his position?
Honestly, he's like a god at Liverpool. It would be like if Pep went 2 years at Man City having poor results. By poor, I mean he almost missed out. He missed out on top 4.
Yeah.
And then he was. How do you think the City fans would react?
There'd be a big chunk of them that'd be on his case. But then you've got. What's that?
I think it's the same with Liverpool fans.
Yeah.
There'd be a huge chunk that would be like he's taken us as far as he can. But I believe in nuance, right? I would have to look at how much backing he's had.
Yeah.
Injuries. Like Pep and Klopp have been the best 2 managers of the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So, like, I think there's enough. There's definitely in Pep's case, obviously, for what he's won. But I would argue the same for Klopp. I would say there's enough credit in the bank where you give him the opportunity still to fix it. There's obviously for both managers, wherever you put the line, there is a cutoff where you just have to, like, say thank you. But no, there is always that with anybody, right? But I do think that with Klopp and Pep, they have built up enough credit in the bank, which you give them 2 to 3 years. And you only have to listen to a lot of the interviews of ex-players and current players. Not so much about Pep, because I don't really follow Pep's universe, but like they talk about wanting to run through walls and mountains for him. So I think as long as the players are totally committed, and the message is still going through, but we're losing because we don't have the caliber of player or whatever, then I think people within the club would realise that he's still the right man for. So I would say there would be pressure, but I do think that with what he's done at the club, it would take a lot more than getting to Christmas time and him being, I don't know, mid-table for the majority of fans. I can't talk for the majority, but I would say that's how I feel anyway.
Yeah. No, I think you've had a very good start. I thought you'd be up there. and the way you've come back in certain games, or where you stayed in certain games, that resilience, that Newcastle game. I mean, they should have been out of sight. You come back and you did them. Even Spurs, you were unlucky. let's be honest in that game.
There was a replay, and it should have been a replay, and you should. Let me just get it out there.
Mate, I'll tell you for free. No replays, son. Take it on the chin. Take it on the chin. Move on.
I've got 5 chins right now.
Yeah. But the thing is, so I think Liverpool have started really well. They are. I'm gonna have to explain this. They're frightening, not as in they're so good that they're frightening me. No, they're frightening other teams. So there will be some teams, and City have had this as well. When some teams, especially come to Manchester, they've lost before they get on the pitch. They know it's going to be a struggle, and it is a struggle. You're robbing teams with your pressing again, which I don't think you were doing as much last season, especially in the middle part of the season. Your pressing's getting you goals. It's getting you.
We were getting outrun by everybody.
Yeah.
A Klopp team getting outrun.
Yeah, mate, eventually the drugs don't work, but give it a season, okay, and it comes back.
It's all about cycling, right? It's all about cycling. So when your body gets used to it, you need to come off it for 12 months.
Let's not talk about the British cycling team anyway, okay? And their chew is Liverpool's asthma problem. But no, you've done really well. You've that midfield needed a total reboot. Really, you couldn't get away with. And when you mentioned Wijnaldum earlier on, losing him, I think, was huge. It was massive. Never replaced him, and then it got to the stage where you're looking at getting. Oh, should we change one person every season? No. You can't do that. When everybody's falling off a cliff, Kate's off a cliff, Fabinho's off a cliff, Henderson's off a cliff, Milner's 107 years old. You've got to do something, and you did. I think you've done the right thing in just saying, right, okay, 2 of them were left because of the money inside it, but you just need the wholesale changes. You've got them, and I think you're going to be challenging for the rest of the season. I can't see you not challenging.
I think the best version of Man City comes out when Liverpool are there, and I think vice versa, the best version of us comes out as well. Arsenal are a very good team now, but I to get 90 plus points is very, very mentally.
Well, you mentioned Arsenal. Let's talk about them before we talk about City. But Arsenal, they've had a good start to the season. They're unbeaten. They've had a bit of luck, and they've earned some luck as well, and they've been unlucky as well. Sorry, so they've earned some luck, been lucky, and they've been unlucky, but they're still unbeaten. Look, the City game, they were lucky. I mean, they were crap. City were crap. Arsenal were crapper. They just got that lucky goal, and suddenly their fans think, "Hey, we're world beaters." Well, whatever way you want to look at it, they've beaten City twice this season, and that's not good. That. Even though that you can argue they're a bit false, that Community Shield was a late equaliser and then on penalties, and this one was a lucky, but they got over the line, and that's all that matters. It gives them players confidence. So I think they should go better than last year. I think they've got enough confidence, enough resilience, and I think they should have grown mentally. It feels like they've grown mentally. Yes, they've been called bottlers twice now, when they bottled the top 4 and they bottled the league. And there's no other ways to look at it. They will argue about Saliba's injury and this and that. Look, it was a bottled job. You don't lose a 2-0 lead against Liverpool. Is that the game they had a penalty against you? I can't remember now. There was one game.
We had a penalty and we missed. You talk about West Ham.
Yeah.
Saka missed it.
Yeah. So to be 2-0 up against Liverpool and not to win, to be 2-0 up against West Ham and not to win. I think there were the Southampton game as well, and Southampton got relegated to not to win that. So that's not Saliba's fault. That's mentality. But I think they would have learned from that. They'll be better this season. So, but as I said last season about Arsenal, I said in the first half of the season, they got 50 points in 19 games, I think, or 51 or whatever. Well, they got plenty of points. Second half of the season, they got something like 33 or 34, which is struggling for top four. So, which is the real Arsenal? We'll find out, I think, in the next half a dozen games. But I think they're going to be up there. And same as Spurs. Spurs have started really well. And Postecoglou's got them purring. I mean, I'm not going to blow my own trumpet too much, but I said they should have got rid of Harry Kane. I said that 2 years ago because it sounds perverse because he's scoring all those goals and he's a superstar. He's holding them back.
Yeah, like Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United, right?
Yeah.
The team is more important than the output of an individual.
Yeah.
So just on the Arsenal point, so yeah. I think they're a very good team now, no doubt about it. But I need to see them. I think to win this league, I know Man City finished on 89 points, but I do think two things were happening. One, you were going through a transition where stylistically, I think Pep had started changing. You're still a possession team, but you were getting more direct, and there was and Haaland had to be integrated better into the team, right? And then secondly, I think you guys took your foot off the gas near the end, like the last 3-4 games.
Last two games. Well, no, they'd won everything. Last two games, they drew with Brighton and lost to Brentford. I'm just going to quickly say, if we needed to win those two games,
you would have won them. No, that's the point I'm making. So I need to see Arsenal for any of us to win the league. I think if Liverpool are at their best again, Arsenal at their best, Man City at their best, Man City will definitely get 90+ points. I don't think we're a 90-point team, right? 90+ point team at the moment. I don't think Arsenal are either, and I think Liverpool still have a bit of work to do, and I think Arsenal still. I don't know, with Declan Rice, maybe they can push that 90 point, but I think either way, I think to win the league, you need to be able to hit 90+ points. And only Man City, I think, are absolutely certain to hit that number if they have to hit it. Liverpool, I think the jury for me is still out there. I think at the moment, honestly, I think we're an 80-point team, and maybe that's enough to win the league in previous versions of the Premier League. But it'll be tough for Arsenal. It'll be tough for Liverpool because I think Man City, once they get going, They're very difficult to stop. So yeah.
Well, let's move on to City. Enough of Spurs. Let's move on. But the City thing is, I mean, obviously, you talked about KDB. We'd won the first 6 games without KDB, basically. I think it was the first game of the season he got injured. So we'd won all those games without him. We hadn't looked good in most of those games. We'd given up a lot of chances. We'd been lucky that teams weren't clinical. Haaland was off the pace. I'm saying that after Haaland scored 8 goals in 8 games. But he's off it. He's well off it. He's missed so many chances. Last season, he was scoring 1 in every 3. This season, it's 1 in every 4. Now, it might not sound like a lot, but it's made a difference. It's made it harder work to beat teams because we've not been clinical.
But you've lost some creativity in KDB. There's
no doubt.
He's not. Haaland isn't R9, right? He needs service, and there's no one in the world better than KDB than providing service. And I think and it's coming. There's no coincidence, right? There's you can draw a direct correlation.
Well, the three creative players that City have lost in KDB, Gundogan, and Mahrez, I dare say they got him plenty of assists for Haaland last season, especially KDB, Gundogan coming through late and assisting as well, and Mahrez putting the crosses in. So, we've lost a lot of firepower in the assist department and the creativity, and obviously that's hurting. Losing Rodri we still call him a pillock and a plonker for getting that red card against, was it Notts Forest? Stupid. And, in the 4 subsequent games, the 3 games Rodri didn't play, we got beat. And we didn't look good either. It's not just that we got beat. We didn't look good at all. When Rodri came back in against RB Leipzig, okay, they give us a bit too much. What's the word? Respect and deference, basically. And we managed to beat them, but Rodri was back, and he makes such a big difference. And I think at the moment, without KDB, Rodri is crucial. As Gary O'Neill said after we beat the Wolves game, he said Rodri makes Man City tick. And one of the reasons he put down them to winning was Rodri not being there. It makes such a big difference. So we've got to A, keep him fit, and B, get his head screwed on so he doesn't end up getting sent off. He's had his break now. He's had a good rest. He's missed, he's complained in the past about missing playing too many games. He's had a good rest. But we have to pull our finger out because we've ghosted games. We've ghosted through games and got the 3 points. We as fans, we were saying, we couldn't believe we'd had 6 wins out of 6 because we hadn't played well enough. But we'd won them. But I said, once we play Arsenal, that's when the truth will come out. And we just went in for a draw. I think we didn't really bust a gut to beat Arsenal.
Pep, surprisingly, I think with these substitutions, it felt like he was playing for a draw near the end. And from a Liverpool fan, it was delicious seeing that not come off. So, for me, I wanted an Arsenal win, obviously, because I feel like we can catch Arsenal a lot more easier than Man City.
I mean, I was gutted that we lost to Wolves. I was gutted because of the knock-on effect it had. So when we went to play Arsenal didn't really go for it at all. But if we'd beaten Wolves, we'd have been 4 points clear of Arsenal. Arsenal knew A, they couldn't lose, and B, they really had to beat City. They couldn't afford to lose and let City open up a 7-point lead because Arsenal are not dragging that back. And the pressure would have been on Arsenal to go out and win that game. And I think that would have played into our hands and we could have turned the tables. But hey, we didn't. The good things are we did okay in the Champions League and we're nearer to December when KDB will be back. I think he'll be back at some point in December. But there's still a lot of tough games for City to play. Our next few games in the league are frightening, basically. We've got Brighton at home, United away, then Bournemouth at home.
Did you say United away is frightening?
United, even though they're crap, they still got that hex over us. Then after that, we got Chelsea away, who are coming back into it, and then the big one is Liverpool away.
Can I ask you a question, Ray?
Go on.
Who do you see as your hand on heart? Who do you see as your biggest challenges?
Liverpool.
Is it Liverpool or Arsenal?
Liverpool, because I think they'll get better. Nunes, I wanted him at City 3 years ago, whatever. So I like Nunes. You've got some good players, Diaz, Gakpo, obviously Mo Salah. I'd have loved him at City. I've always said we should have offered him £500,000 a week. He would never have come, but it would have forced Liverpool to pay him £500,000 a week. So you've got some really good players up top. And as McAllister and Szoboszlai get more used to it, he's been here for years. But as the team kind of get more knowing each other better, playing better together, get more used to each other, you'll get better. And confidence is huge because you'll have confidence in yourselves. And as I said earlier, other teams will be going onto the pitch thinking, oh, no, we're going to get beat. They're playing so well and all that. So that does weigh upon them. So I think Liverpool are the biggest challenges. I think Arsenal are next because we've seen them get better and better. We've seen them buy new players. Obviously, Declan Rice is helping them. So I think they'll be there. And you can't write off Spurs. I mean, last season, people were saying Arsenal will fall away. They did eventually. But I said, the longer they don't fall away, the more seriously you have to take them. And at the moment, Spurs haven't fallen away. Okay, they're playing some decent football. Maddison was a great signing for them. Fantastic signing. And they, again, have been resilient. And however you look at it, I mean, they beat Luton last time out 1-0 when I think they were down to 10 men. So, they're getting the results. They're getting the results, same as Liverpool, defining a way to win. They've got some tough games coming up as well. London derbies are never good. I think they've got 3 on the bounce. I think they've got Fulham, Palace, and Chelsea coming up. And then they've got a couple of potentially tough games away to Wolves, home to Villa, and then the City game. And then West Ham, and then Newcastle. So, they've got tough games all the way up to December. I think we'll find out what Spurs are like again. I mean, 8 games is nothing, really. 8 games, you can have a good 8 games, and then you can have a poor 8 games, and you can be back into mid-table. But I think, for me anyway, in that order, Liverpool are the biggest challengers, Arsenal, and then Spurs. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think this season, I would say Man City are favourites. I would say it's difficult with Liverpool and Arsenal. I'm still not fully trusting my team.
Yeah.
I like what I've seen, and if this is going to continue and they're going to get better, then Liverpool for me would be next. Then it would be Arsenal. But I like what Arsenal are doing as well. To be fair, I think they're a very good team as well. But City are really, the bar is really high there. Yeah. And then after that, I would say it's probably Spurs, Chelsea, then United.
Well, I mean, I wanted to talk about we said Big Six. This show is about the Big Six. So let's bring some more of the Big Six in and have a brief chat about them. And at the moment, the Big Six are Aston Villa and Brighton, aren't they? Forget about United and Chelsea.
Phenomenal team. Brighton are very underrated. Very good team.
Absolutely. I mean, they have this issue at the moment where they've let a lot of goals in this season, 16 goals. They have had a couple of bad reverses this season. But generally, they've been pretty good. Villa as well, after they got spanked on that opening day of the season, people thought, yeah, Villa, one-hit wonder. They've had their good spell, and that's it.
We did them quite well at Anfield. It was quite comfortable, I felt. But they're a good team. There's a lot of good teams in the Premier League. I mean, yeah. But for me, Brighton aren't going to win the league.
No.
I think they will falter for top 4. But on their day, they can cause anybody problems.
I think they can beat anybody. I think Villa and Brighton can beat anybody on their day. I think they'll have an impact because they'll take points off the top 4 teams. I'm sure of it. Newcastle aren't too far back because they've got 13 points. You're on 17. We're on 18. They're not too far back, but it's going to take, another special season for them to challenge. I can see them again challenging for top 4. Definitely. I mean, they are the second top scorers this season. All right, they won a game. Sorry?
They're a good team. They are I find them to be a very like Chelsea, old Mourinho style team. For some really weird, big defenders, don't concede theoretically through set pieces a lot. They're a very good team. There's some really good. This whole Big Six, I think, it's morphing to Big 8 or Big 7 or whatever it is. It's very good team, and they will take points off. And Newcastle's a very difficult place to go to and get points.
Yeah. And then the other 2 supposedly big teams, Man United and Chelsea. I mean, Man United are in 10th with 12 points. And although they look absolutely not good enough, they don't look good enough. But who knows? With a good run, you can be challenging. I mean, they're only 6 points off of City. And Chelsea, 6 points off Liverpool. So, after 8 games, come back in 8 games' time.
But it's not that. I think there's a circus around Man United.
Yeah, absolutely.
There feels like it from the outside. There's a disconnect between board management board management, and fans.
Yeah.
And they won 2-1, but they did very little in that game, I felt. And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Liverpool have been scumbag in a few games as well. But I don't know, if with Liverpool it feels like they're going and they're resilient, and maybe it's confirmation bias there, right? I'm viewing it through a sort of more optimistic lens. But with Man United, I feel like they're always this far away from either a catastrophe or a crisis.
Yeah.
Like, and the whole Sancho thing and the ownership model thing. Alhamdulillah.
They're a mess.
Sometimes, like if you look at Real Madrid, right? They have a lot of chaos, but they do very well. And Chelsea were like that, right? There was always a lot of chaos, right? But I think that era, especially in the Premier League, is sort of gone now, because you've got like Pep, who, regardless of the chaos, will always set a very high bar. So, and he's got a super team there. So, like, chaos doesn't work anymore. You need normality. So that's why I think Man United, yes, they will climb up the table. I said this to a friend. I personally want every 5 games for United to win 3 games and lose 2.
Yeah.
I want Eric Ten Hag
Yeah.
I want it simmering.
That's what we used to say. That's what we used to say about Ollie. We just win enough games to stick in there. And you're right. There is a circus. There was a circus with Ronaldo last season. You've had Greenwood. You've had Anthony. You've got Sancho. It's just a mess. The ownership. Sheikh Yassin or Jassim, whatever his name is, and
praise him. I'm praising him right now.
No.
Can you imagine
The thing is,
all jokes aside, Ray, right? Man United are the biggest club in England, right? Then it's probably Liverpool. If you do history or whatever, and size of club doesn't win you titles, right? Man City are proving that, and they're getting bigger and bigger. But like Man United would be a real problem if they were run properly. With their size and that sort of investment, they would be a real problem. And money doesn't equate to success, because God knows how much money they. But can you imagine like a good structure and the money?
That's the thing. What people don't appreciate about what City have done, it's the good management behind the scenes that has allowed City to grow to where they are. People say, it's all fake and all that. No. Okay. Big companies want to be associated with success. And who's winning? Man City. Big companies want to be associated with them. That's why the Nissans of this world are paying lots of money to City. Puma, huge contract to City. Nexen Tires and all these other companies, they want to be involved with City. Sure. Some want the deals with the Abu Dhabi as well. So they use that as a leverage, so the City can get money. It kind of is, you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. I'm sure, in fact, I know some of that happens, okay? I know. No, I know some of that happens, but it is, basically, if you want to do deals with Abu Dhabi, sometimes you have to grease the palms along the way.
I know that, and I'm going to use that as leverage. But
I never said it.
No, of course. But I know it was Daniel Levy that said it, or a lookalike of Daniel Levy. Yeah. But yeah, listen, I work in the city. I know, people buy from people, right? And it's about relationships. But my point about Man United is that even without the success, they're a huge commercial monster, right? But can you imagine them with the success? Oh, yeah.
Well, this was going to be my point. City have done all this from a position where we were miles behind. But 10 or 12 years of excellent management of on the pitch and off the pitch has catapulted us to being the biggest turnover club in the world.
Yeah.
Now, if United were winning the Champions Leagues, if they're even getting there and staying there, they're losing that 60, 70, 80 million quid just on that. They're losing that money on the Premier League and everything else. And the sponsorships, it's not as good as before. It's still doing really well because of who they are and their name and their fan base and all that. But you're right. I mean, there's such a mess. They run so poorly with when Edward Woodward was there. Everything was a mess. Their mistake was Ferguson and David Gill going at the same time. If one of them had stayed, Gill had stayed an extra year or two, I think United wouldn't be in the same as deep a mess as they are. They still would struggle. Same way, I think Liverpool will struggle when Klopp goes. Because who else is going to motivate the players the way Klopp does? Same way City will struggle when Pep goes. Because
it depends if we define the terms of struggle, right? So I think City have built an infrastructure personally that would see them, and they have the resources. Listen, Liverpool are a high turnover club as well, but I would say it's the level of risk that the owners are prepared to sort of spend. I think City are a lot more risk adverse when it comes to overall spend. But I saw videos where like your owner was asked about Van Dijk's price, and he was told they want 75 million for him or some huge number, and he was like, no, we're not going there. But overall, I think City will always do what's needed to be competitive, right? And yes, when Pep goes, maybe City will regress to like late 80 points average rather than the not plus 90. And similarly with Liverpool, we will regress unless we bring another genius in, right?
Yeah.
And squeeze every ounce we can from the players. But I think City are very well set up to carry on competing. I think Liverpool have a good infrastructure in place, but let's be honest, we're up against another club who has owners that do not. They want to make money, but I feel like when it comes to spending and the markets, and I'm not a finance expert, but they're a lot more cautious. There was this thing, sorry, I'm slightly digressing, but there was this thing I read on Twitter where somebody in the management of Liverpool was talking about transfers and how like only 48% of them are successful. And that's if you buy at the Alisson Van Dijk level, right? And when you start buying at a lower grade, the probability is a lot less of success. So which is why FSG and I'm being very clumsy in how I'm explaining this, tend to renew contracts or keep players longer because they're already here, it's working.
Yeah, it's what you know.
Rather than rolling the dice and risking it. That was an explanation. So that's why I think Liverpool, you're right, if Klopp goes, there's definitely going to be a regression, but it really depends on, I feel like, because the infrastructure is there, but it's about how risk adverse the owners are. And the truth is, we can't compete economically, I feel, head to head with the Cities, the Chelseas, and the Uniteds.
I think the difference is, but Liverpool won't. I think that's the difference. Liverpool's owners want to keep some in reserve. They won't push it.
I mean, turnover-wise, we're the top 4 teams in the world. We have them. Yeah. Now you can make an argument and say, but a lot of it goes on wages. But similarly with City as well, and it's about the investment to make sure that you remain at the top, which then brings the sponsors in. So they're just more risk adverse. They're a private equity company, depending on where you are in the cycle of their private equity, right? If you're at the end of the cycle, you tend not to spend as much because you're not going to see it's going to come off your EBITDA, and you know more finance than I do. So I agree with you, but one is run by private equity and the other one is run by Abu Dhabi.
Sugar daddy.
Sugar, but
Abu Dhabi.
They're different.
It's run by the Abu Dhabi Sugar Daddy. I mean, quickly looking at Liverpool's turnover is 550 million euros.
I think that's fourth in the world. I think that's 4th or 5th in the world. I'm guessing.
Well, all right. The list I'm looking at, which was done a year ago now, it's a bit old. You were 7th. So let's look at 2023. If I can quickly find a more up-to-date one. Because let's look at the Deloitte one quickly, if I can open it up. It's one of these where you just want to look at the table and you're going to go through all the guff first.
But you're right. The one I was thinking about was the most valuable sports teams.
Yeah,
so
you're right. Liverpool, turnover-wise, Liverpool were 3rd. Oh, I can't believe that. Wow. City with 731 million euros. Real Madrid with 714. Liverpool with 702. United with down.
The question is,
it's not far.
So if Liverpool, City, and Madrid aren't too far, I mean, we're going to take a hit on not being in Champions League this year in the next accounts, right? But I guess the question I would ask you is it because the way City and Madrid do their accounting allows them to have extra, how they recognize, again, it's not my area of expertise, or is it because our owners are genuinely more risk adverse?
I think it's your owners don't want to spend all the money you've got. City aren't worried about. I just think City will spend a bit more. I think you spent more on wages in the past than I remember doing something, and I can't remember all the details with Colin Savage about Liverpool not having. It was a couple of years ago, and I think he said they didn't have that much flexibility as to what they could have done in the transfer market, which is why they weren't spending big money at that time, because you'd pushed yourself to the limit. I mean, the thing was, you'd gone up from 7th to 3rd in 1 year, 7th to 3rd, and that was on the basis, on the back of being in the Champions League final, getting to the end of everything.
Yeah. Sponsorship was probably through the roof in terms of the incentives.
Everything was, really, really good. But like City, your bonuses were probably through the roof as well. So you're knocking on the door. Obviously, like you say, you'll drop back a bit because you're not in the Champions League this season, and that will hurt you. Whatever that's going to be, 30, 40, 50 million quid. So I think that's going to be tough. But I just don't think you're prepared to go the extra mile that City's owners are. Because City's owners are, as long as we don't fail FFP, I think that's what matters. If we can turn a small profit, that's fine. They're making their money by selling shares. That's how they made their money.
100%. That's how most businesses make their money, right? It's through, because anything that comes in, you tend to reinvest, right, in the business.
Absolutely.
So, that's why. But our owners, maybe they like the cash reserves. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not an accountant, and I'm probably talking out my hat. But
no, I think they've just not been willing to spend lots of money. But when the opportunity comes, they will go out and grab him back. The opportunity was there. They went out and got him. So I think they will go out for players if the opportunity is there. But
just to be clear, right, I'm not saying we're paupers, right?
Yeah.
We spend huge on wages, and we are very competitive generally in the transfer market.
Yeah.
We're just not at that. Having the 3rd highest turnover or 4th highest turnover, we should really be theoretically in the cluster of what City and Chelsea are spending and United. But the truth is, Chelsea don't have our turnover, so I don't know how they're doing what they're doing, but it's just something just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah,
we're run very much, I think, like how a private equity business is run.
Yeah, they're not looking. They're looking to spend as little as possible to get the maximum out of it. But also knowing that you do have to spend at times to get the returns. But it's going to be a very interesting season. I mean, they all are. Every time a season starts, I think, this is going to be really interesting. And it is. You never would have thought there'd be 40.
For you last season, wasn't for me. I don't know.
Last season was fantastic watching you guys struggle. I mean, it was hard work to haul in Arsenal, and I think it's going to be hard work to keep you guys at bay. It is going to be a fascinating season. I can't wait. The next few games, we'll get to another international break, which will be boring again. But I think we'll have a better idea where we are. Who's going to be challenging. But I don't think it's going to change too much. I can't see, even 3 or 4 games' time, how much will it change? I think the same 4 teams will be the same 4 teams that are at the top of the table, unless, something dramatic happens, City lose to Brighton or something. But I think it's going to be a properly tight season with 4 clubs, I think, going to be going. I can't see Spurs dropping away. Not quickly anyway, not this side of Christmas.
I think you got that sort of little club Man City view. I think Man City, once Kevin De Bruyne comes back, if Liverpool aren't...
Yeah, look, I think
we've been generous. Let's call it. Let's call it what it is.
We got the City-itis, man. KDB might be over, might be finished. He might be Van Dijk'd. After his injury, might be Van Dijk to come back.
You done me dirty there. You know how much I love Van Dijk as well. But the thing with Kevin De Bruyne is when he comes back, I always feel like he comes back slightly overweight, and it takes him a
few games. I mean, when he came out a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, when he got injured for a while, he was out for 6-8 weeks, whatever. I remember saying, I don't want him to come back straight away because actually the rest of the team were doing really well. And I said he needs to wait his turn because he'll be that's been the operative word. But he needs to get back into fitness, then match fitness, and bring him back gently rather than, we saw he had this injury at the Champions League final. First game of the season, boom, he's gone again. So, I want to treat him with kid gloves. I want to treat him with kid gloves.
What a player. Like,
everybody would take him. But for me, right now, the most important player, I've mentioned it before, for City right now is Rodri. We can ill afford to lose him because the backup, we've seen the backup. Kovacic isn't backup. Your man Phillips isn't backup. I really wish you'd bought Phillips from us and just taken him off our hands, giving us 4
minutes. Maybe if he was in that what's it called, scouting database back in the day. Who knows?
but you wanted him. He didn't want to go. He turned you down.
Yeah, to be fair, he was at the bigger club. He's loving life.
I mean, what's the world come to? Caicedo turns you down. Calvin Phillips turns you down. Romeo Lavia turns you down. To be honest, they were all better off at Liverpool. They'll find out.
Yeah, listen, playing for Jurgen, listen, except Pep, right? Why would you, in God's name, choose Chelsea above Liverpool except for London and money? Right? I know that's a big except, right? Yeah. I live in London, right? But, like, Chelsea are a real basket case of a club.
Yeah.
Like, for your own, I don't know. I find it's ultimately, I think us as fans, we get too emotionally invested and it's personal. But I'm starting to come to the conclusion that for footballers, it's just a job. So, like, if it's just a job, then would you really care if you work for PwC or Deloitte? Probably not, right?
If you're not bothered about I was going to say, if you're not bothered about winning stuff as much as earning the money and the lifestyle, then you'll go to Chelsea instead of Liverpool. Cole Palmer's a City boy. He would not want to leave, but everything kind of in the end told him Chelsea are offering a lot of money. They're telling him he's going to be starting more games and playing. At City, he's not guaranteed that. A lot of things come together, and he says, right, I'll go. And
it's sorry to interrupt. It's mad because that right wing spot is open as well, right? Yes, you bought that guy from Belgium. Is it Belgium? Doku. He reminds me of. I'm probably gonna regret saying this, but he reminds me of what's his name that played for Newcastle, the one that went to Saudi Arabia. Do you know who?
Maxine. Maxim.
He reminds me. He's clearly more classier on the ball and stuff like that. But that position's free. But like, and you're playing for Pep, right? Who?
See, the thing is, I think he wanted to stay, but he wasn't getting any guarantees. You don't get guarantees, which is fine. But
You shouldn't get guarantees at that age.
no,
Like,
I think he wanted to stay, but you're not that high up in my plans. Even though, hey, you scored a cracking goal in the Community Shield. Hey, you scored the winner against Sevilla, but you're not that high in my plans. And I just think the way Pep had talked about it, he must have said stuff behind the scenes as well. And we were happy to let him go. Some of the fans like me gutted because I thought, but the problem is, same as Romeo Lavia. We would love to have, I think, Romeo Lavia instead of Calvin Phillips. But if Romeo Lavia stayed at City, he wouldn't have got any game time. He wouldn't have developed. He wouldn't be the guy that he is now. That season at Southampton has let him flourish. I think City had a buyback. City had a buyback clause, but it was after 2 years. They didn't expect him to get to where he was after one. But this is the problem. Cole Palmer was fighting against Foden, Bernardo for a place, and that's tough. And I don't think he could wait because you've got them on the right, Doku on the left with Grealish. We've got Alvarez and Haaland. And then other midfielders, you've got when KDB's back, you've got KDB, you've got Mateo Kovacic, you've got Mateus Nunes. Where's the space for the guy?
It's very, very difficult. I think from my perspective, I'm not from Liverpool, right? But I do see the value of having. For me, it's sad when a really good, promising youngster doesn't make it at the club because I think it's an indictment of how football is moving, right? Where you need the best players in every position, or some other team's going to get it, right? So for me, Kyle Palmer is a real talent. He's a real good player, and that I would have thought you guys would have moved heaven and earth to have kept him. But the truth is, City are a very attractive club, and they could bring anybody in that position, except Mo Salah on £500,000 a week. Thank his bless his cotton socks.
You're right. Go on, sir. Go ahead. No, you go ahead. No, you're right. Sorry, I know I've started now. So you're right. We're gutted because you've got Foden, you've got Rico Lewis coming through, fabulous talent. Having Cole Palmer, it's what you want as locals. You want local lads making it. It just gives an extra connection.
It's a dream, right? It's like because you can connect to that local lad as well because you probably played on the same parks. You probably. I was going to say in your day it was O levels, but like you, but you know what I mean, right? Yeah. I don't come from Liverpool, but I understand the sort. I like to think I understand the sort of attraction. But the truth is he good enough to be at that standard to come into a very competitive league? There's always pressure on Pep, and we talked earlier about if Pep had one bad season or two bad seasons, would his job be? I think at these clubs, Pep's got enough credit. Obviously, Klopp has credit, but it's very pressurized, right? It's like, can they afford to blood youngsters in? And he lost Mahrez, right? So he needs to balance the books. He needs to bring in Doku from where he brought him in from. So I understand it. It's a double-edged sword, right? But it's a shame because I think under Pep in a few years' time, he could have really been a world beater for you guys.
Yeah, no, it just needed time. And that's the problem. Last season, you've got Mahrez, you've got KDB, you've got Gundogan, you had Foden, Alvarez. How are you getting ahead of these guys? And I just think that's the problem for kids coming through a City. You've got to be not just exceptional, really exceptional to get a chance. And Cole Palmer was only exceptional.
But what's crazy, he was only exceptional, but he could be very exceptional.
Yeah.
With the right train, because that's what's the point of coaching if you can't improve players?
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise you're just a checkbook manager. But I do think with like a whole spine of your team was removed.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of players went, but they were very important. Mahrez was very important. Best touch I've probably seen in the Premier League. When the crossfield ball comes, he probably had the best touch. You know, Gundo, who another one. All these players are going. There should have been a spot for him. But listen, it's not my problem. It's City's problem. If we had a talent like that, and I think we do, we have this Scottish lad, Ben Doak, I think his name is. Very promising guy, very direct, very raw. But what hopefully he's given with Salah, I think personally it's to be Salah's last year.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping he gets blooded. I don't think he's good enough yet to be a starter in that Liverpool team, even next year perhaps. But with Salah going, Salah's so dominant in that right wing that you're never going to get in front of him.
Yeah.
Unless you move him forward, but he's going to probably leave for Saudi. But like same thing, I'd be very gutted if that Ben Doak, I think that's his name, leaves because he's got bags of potential.
Yeah.
But on a positive note, Man United are burning.
What a way to finish! What a way to finish the show. Let's all laugh at Man United. Kammy, it's been lovely to have a chat with you.
Always great.
And you know, I'm sure we'll catch up again in the next international break when we're bored of the lack of football and not much good stuff going on in the world, mate. But it's been lovely to chat with you, and hopefully it'll be a good old fight this season for the title. And I don't mind you coming second if we win it. I'm sure you wouldn't either.
You're dead to me. That's all I'm saying.
I'm sure you wouldn't mind, you know, coming second and putting up a good fight.
Yeah, like I still have
nightmares.
PTSD. Yeah, over those two title challenges of 92 or 93 points and 97 points. Yeah, it's not good for my health. Just before we go, I will just say this: like, you don't know how stressful those run-ins are. Like, they are. Like, it's not good. Sometimes I'm just like lose, just like fall away. Like, it feels like you're holding your breath constantly.
Oh, yeah. That season where we beat you to the title by 1 point, 98 to 97, or whatever it was. And we won 14 games on the bounce to win that title. And honestly, fans, some of us were thinking, I don't care what, honestly, because we couldn't. You were on tenterhooks from January, February, March, April, 5 months. You were wound up tense because of that. And that was a really tough season to take. It was one of the hardest seasons, honestly. One of the most pleasurable, but that's the problem. To get the most joy, you've got to suffer along the way. You know, you've got to, like that Newcastle game, you know, to get the joy of beating them with 10 men, you had to suffer going down to 10 men and looking like you're going to lose. And that's how, you know, these moments come. So I'm sure there'll be many more. It's going to be a good season. I'm looking forward to it. And maybe we'll duke it out with you in the Champions League next season if you guys can, you know, if you can bother to finish in the top four. It'd be lovely.
We'll do our best.
Take care, buddy. Go on.
I'll take care. Have a good one.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.